Who would have thought that a little bird that cannot even fly would find itself at the heart of one of the raging worldview controversies of our generation? Hi, I'm Doug Phillips, executive producer of The Mysterious Islands, with a report on the battle over the true meaning and message of the flightless cormorant. In our film, we take you to the strange and wonderful world of the Galapagos. There we go to the black lava fields of Fernandina Island, where we witness some of God's most unusual creatures, like this rare variety of cormorant found only in the Galapagos. Of course, the Mysterious Island team is not the only team to visit and document this unusual bird. Evolutionists of all stripes have made the pilgrimage to what they call Darwin's Eden. And here on the Galapagos, they're confronted with the problem of the flightless cormorant. If evolution is really true, how does one explain a bird which is essentially similar to all other varieties of cormorants except for one significant difference? It has small wings that will not allow it to fly. The most notable evolutionist to tackle this issue from the Galapagos is Dr. Richard Dawkins. A committed atheist, Professor Dawkins is perhaps the most widely recognized evolutionary scientist in the world, known for his scathing attacks on the God of the Bible, as well as his openness to panspermia, the belief that extraterrestrial intelligence may have seeded life on Earth. Dr. Dawkins has dedicated much time in efforts to discredit the biblical account of creation. Dawkins wrote, "In the United States, some 40% of the population doesn't believe in evolution. They believe that the world was created within the last 10,000 years. That's an educational disgrace, and those people, the majority of them, couldn't possibly believe that if only they were exposed to the evidence." According to Dawkins, evolution is so obvious that if people were simply presented with the facts, well, they would accept it as undeniable truth. Elsewhere, Dr. Dawkins points out that none other than the flightless cormorant of the Galapagos is what he believes is an example of the irrefutable truth for evolutionism. Here's what Dr. Dawkins says.
It would be very hard for a creationist to explain why the Galapagos cormorant has these little tiny wings that are no use for flying. But of course, on Darwin's evolution theory, it's very easy to explain. The ancestors had wings, and they gradually lost them. Vestigial organs, one of Darwin's key arguments.
Thanks for the challenge, Dr. Dawkins. Now let's take a look at the problem. Dr. Dawkins believes he has found the answer to a real conundrum for a theory that claims that animals get better through mutations. Remember that for evolution to be true, animals must gain new information. That allows them to transform into stronger creatures, different kinds of creatures. In the evolutionist worldview, it's alleged that these changes often occur through beneficial mutations. So how does an evolutionist respond to a bird like the cormorant, which appears to have gained nothing in terms of new body parts, but has clearly lost something, the use of its wings? Dr. Dawkins' answer? A concept known as vestigial organs, or the idea that certain body parts are useless organs, unnecessary leftovers from the past in the evolutionary journey of the animal. This is the way evolutionists attempt to explain changes in creatures that reflect a clear loss of information and ability. From a creationist perspective, this remains one of the weakest evidentiary arguments mustered by the evolutionist. Why? Well, after 150 years of Darwinism, neo-Darwinism, and evolutionary thinking of various stripes, one thing is clear. Darwin's progeny are so committed to the worldview of their founding father that they'll do much to defend their thesis, even if the logic stretches credulity. Time after time, key defenses and so-called evidences for evolution have been discarded, like Piltdown Man, which was later proven to be a fraud, or the idea that human embryos have gill slits, thus proving that evolution is recapitulated in the womb. And this is also the story of the notion of vestigial organs. Evolutionists have told us that man has as many as 180 vestigial organs left over from evolution. We've been told that man's useless organs include wisdom teeth, tonsils, the thymus gland, the tailbone, and even the little toe. Do you think that you would be better off without these? Does the existence of these body parts prove evolution? Hardly. Perhaps the most classic example of the vestigial organ argument is the claim that the appendix is a leftover of evolution past. As my colleague Dr. John Morris has observed,
now that considerable research has been done on the appendix, it's been found to be a complex and highly specialized organ. While there are still a lot of things we don't understand about the human appendix, scientists believe it has important functions in the following areas. embryology, physiology, microbiology, that's bacteriology, biochemistry, and in the immune system. For instance, consider the following physiological function. The goblet cells which line the appendix and the adjacent cecum and colon secrete a special mucus which can be regarded as an antibacterial agent controlling the organisms which develop in the bowel, without which the body cannot truly utilize its food. Thus, most doctors now say that the appendix should not be removed. Think about it.
All cormorants dry their wings out in the sun after swimming or diving. In the case of the flightless cormorant, Dawkins views this as an unnecessary practice left over from a previous ancestor. In his way of thinking, the bird drying its wings out proves that it must have flown at some point in the past. What Dawkins fails to see is that this bird, just like any other cormorant, has to dry its wings because they are not waterproof. It acts like a cormorant because it is a cormorant. Like so many evidences mustered by evolutionists, the notion of vestigial organs is destined for the scrap heap, as one scientist has observed. An analysis of the difficulties in unambiguously identifying functionless structures leads to the conclusion that vestigial organs provide no evidence for evolutionary theory. Richard Dawkins views this remarkable bird through the grid of his religion, and that is humanism. One of the doctrines of humanism is evolutionism, which states that species gradually evolve from simple life forms to complex organisms. What creationists see as merely another variety of cormorant, Dawkins sees as a separate animal. In his attempt to prove evolution, he has misinterpreted a reconfiguration of the genes to be fundamental change of genetic information. Dawkins' presupposition, his belief system, and his faith have dictated his perception of the facts. Every man brings to the table unique assumptions that influence his way of thinking. The evolutionist believes everything around him is the product of random chance and understands facts in the light of this axiom. The creationist holds the Bible to be the standard of knowledge and therefore sees the very same data in totally different ways. God gave all animals the ability to adapt to their surroundings. What evolutionists very often see as evolution is only variation within a kind. In the case of the flightless cormorant, its inability to fly is perhaps due to the singular conditions existing on the Galapagos. Under most circumstances, flight is advantageous, but on these islands, it's possible that airborne birds would be blown out to sea. Assuming this is true, the flightless cormorant would have been able to survive much better than any closely related counterparts. Its excellent swimming abilities, coupled with a lack of predators, has enabled this animal to survive in this remote location of the Galapagos Islands. In the Genesis account of the flood we read, "And of every living thing of all flesh, 2 of every sort shalt thou bring into the ark, to keep them alive with thee. They shall be male and female, of fowls after their kind." This would support the fact that all of the variety of cormorants have come from one kind of cormorant. Consequently, the Galapagos flightless cormorant is not an example of evolution, but a mighty testimony to God's design genius in building flexibility into his creatures, enabling them to thrive in otherwise hostile conditions. This bird is not, as Dawkins would have you believe, an example of rapid evolution, but rather, it's a remarkable example of God's provision for the animals he has created.